All right, guys, we're gonna get straight into this reaction. I don't want to take too long doing an intro. This is CNN. These what they say about the Trump 9-0 SCOTUS victory today, basically on the Colorado election case. So let's see what they got to say on this. Probably gonna flip their lid. Who knows? Let's go.
Laura, what do we know right now?
A really consequential decision has just been handed down. Paula Reed, the court has made a decision.
This is a win for former President Trump. Here, the Supreme Court has reversed a ruling from the Colorado Supreme Court that would have removed former President Trump from the ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, the so-called insurrectionist ban. Now, this is very much what we expected based on what we saw about a month ago during oral argument.
Well, yeah.
Justices on both.
Okay, but we expected it. Most people did. Any sane people knew that the Supreme Court was going to rule this way, but I didn't think it was going to be 9-0. But these people, they've been CNN and MSNBC and a bunch of websites, a bunch of news places have been saying how this is gonna go through. Like they were like, what the? Now they're just totally changing what they were saying. I could have swore I seen before they were saying how it was going to be upheld. So let's, man, I don't know. I don't mind just okay.
Both sides of the aisle appeared skeptical of Colorado's argument that Trump could be removed by the state under the 14th Amendment. So this is a huge win. It means that former President Trump will appear on the primary ballot. And this applies not only to Colorado, but also to states across the country. Because as we've seen, many states have tried this way of removing Trump from the ballot. It was considered a novel,
Excuse me, sorry.
long shot way to bump Trump out of eligibility for the White House. But we've only seen Colorado, Maine, and Illinois actually remove him. But here, the Supreme Court, as you know, the final word on constitutional questions, saying no, it is up to Congress, not the states, to do this. So an enormous win for former President Trump.
This is so significant, Paula. We knew in the 2.5-hour argument that was had that they were leaning in this direction. They asked the question, as you remember, the moment in time of, well, why should Colorado be the one to decide for the rest of the nation a matter of such consequence? And there was some pushback on whether a state could actually do this. It seems like they want Congress to actually make the decision.
Yeah, I think that's what they said.
Maybe a little bit of vagueness, but this is very important because he was already still on the ballot, as you know. But the idea of them saying this is for Congress to look at.
I don't know if a lot of people know it, but they never actually pulled him from the ballot. They said they would if SCOTUS ruled in their favor, but they hadn't done it yet. So, guys, if you can, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll be doing more videos like this. I'd appreciate it.
Not us. Means they don't want politics in the Supreme Court right now.
That's exactly right. And even though I'm sure they'd love to avoid all of these Trump-related
yeah,
cases,
but I don't think you can avoid that.
At least 2 big Trump-related cases they're taking down.
Because immunity is still on the horizon.
Exactly. In a month and a half, we'll be back on April 22nd.
Yeah, that's true. We'll be doing a video on that too, I'm sure.
About whether former President Trump has immunity to protect him from
presidential
the
immunity,
federal election subversion case. But let's look at the timing here, right? It was almost a month ago that we were.
I'm really not a fan of presidential immunity. I think it's bullshit.
On an expedited basis.
Chicken shit way out.
But I was a little surprised that it took them a month to unanimously do what we expected them to do.
Especially because they took the case up very quickly, right? Yeah. It wasn't that they were in the case of immunity. They said 7 weeks from now, we'll hear something. In this case, they said we're going to hear it pretty quickly. They had a pretty easy turnaround. But this is the day before Super Tuesday as well. He's already on the ballot. As you mentioned, other states are wanting to see if they have a leg to stand on here. But Paula, the idea that the Supreme Court was going to make this decision was not so shocking. But they took that case up in the first instance to some was surprising.
It was surprising because so many people thought this was such a novel legal theory that you weren't really going to successfully be able to remove Trump based on this obscure provision of the 14th Amendment that was enacted after the Civil War. But then we saw in the state of Colorado, even the courts within that state were split on whether this applied to presidents. But once you got that Supreme Court, Colorado ruling that removed him, it really seemed inevitable that the Supreme Court would have to take this up.
Even if it applied to presidents, he wasn't ever convicted of it, so it doesn't matter. So you could try to remove him for something, I guess, that he was never convicted of. I don't know how that would hold up in court. You'd probably lose just on that. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know. I don't know how that would trying to make somebody guilty of something that they never was even tried. They never said was guilty of. So I don't know. That's a tough legal argument, but that's for somebody a lot smarter than me to talk about.
Up because even in states that had tried this and they didn't remove him, they left the door open. And without the Supreme Court clarifying this question, we would likely see litigation and arguably a lot of chaos and confusion throughout the presidential contest. So this also, of course, applies to the general election. And for anyone,
Sorry,
who's
guys, I
confused,
just
former
woke up.
President Trump will appear on primary
Seen this,
ballots,
so I figured
and
I'd throw it
so
on.
He is the nominee, as we expect him to be on the general election ballot. Very much expected, but an enormous win for the former president.
It really is. And remember, to go back, it was a trial court in Colorado who made a finding surrounding insurrection without having an actual jury trial. He has not been charged with insurrection, not been convicted of insurrection in a criminal proceeding. The Colorado Supreme Court was the one that said, yes, actually he should be removed from the actual ballot. Now, Paula, though, this is going to suggest that because there's been no finding, there's been no ruling or conviction, this might stand across the nation.
Yeah, that's what we expect, that this will be the final word. Because again, when you saw, even within the state of Colorado, the courts didn't agree, but the highest court did remove him. We also saw in Maine they removed him, and Illinois as well. But one of the many arguments that Trump's lawyers made when they were here at the Supreme Court is that they insist that he didn't engage in an insurrection. And as you remember, the justices kind of stayed away from mentioning the former president's name, but also this larger question of insurrection. Instead, it appears that they focused more on who.
I don't think they're ruling on.
Who gets removed.
I don't think they're ruling on Trump. They're ruling that it just can't be done across the board. Doesn't matter if it's Biden, Trump. Doesn't matter. It just can't. You can't remove somebody from the ballot. A state can't remove somebody from the ballot. It has to be Congress. I think is. So they're not. They shouldn't mention Trump. They're not ruling on Trump. They're ruling across the board unanimously. Yeah, whatever. I can't talk right now.
From a ballot, and here, not surprisingly, they determine that it is Congress, not the states, that can remove potential candidates from the ballot.
Jim, a really consequential moment today. The Supreme Court finding that he
should Jim, what you got?
Ballot, will still be on the ballot, has not been disqualified. And again, they found the exit ramp that many thought they were looking for. It was apparent.
Yeah, absolutely, Laura and Paula, and they're doing this on the eve of Super Tuesday, which makes sense, and I guess gives us some sense that the Supreme Court is looking at the political calendar, not just the legal calendar. All right, Laura and Paula, thank you. Let me go. Joan Biskupik is on set with us, as well as Dana Bash and Ellie Honig. Joan, your sense of this?
Well, first of all, it's 9-0 to reverse the Colorado Supreme Court. So former President Donald Trump will remain on the ballot and other state ballots. But the justices actually split on how far to go. The majority decision, written as a per curiam, likely by the Chief Justice of the United States because it's unsigned.
You don't expect them to all agree.
Much more authority to Congress about when someone should be disqualified. And Justices Barrett, and then the three liberals write separately. And what's key here,
I hate when they refer to them as liberals.
I'm listening to two different things. Excuse me for a second.
It happens.
And
I was listening to two different conversations. But I'll
whatever on the Supreme Court.
Please.
Because they're supposed to be
this is the important part.
non,
Though they came out,
they're supposed to be ruling on legal analysis, not fucking left or right.
For Super Tuesday, it shows how divided the Supreme Court still is, because the three liberals broke off and said, you majority are going too far in terms of how you would dictate the rules for future disqualifications. And again, it was the three liberals specifically writing on this: Justice Sotomayor, Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and our newest Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, Justice Barrett, one of Donald Trump's appointees, the third one, in fact, split off a bit also, but not joining the liberals.
Interesting. And Ellie, I just want to read, it looks like page 13 of this. It says, for the reasons given, responsibility for enforcing Section 3 against federal office holders and candidates rests with Congress and not the states. Right. The judgment of the Colorado
So they
Supreme
want
Court
actual
therefore cannot stand.
litigation
So they're saying essentially that
done
Congress
by
has to make this decision whether there are insurrectionists who need to be kept off
Actually,
the
some
ballots.
type
Is that
of-
essentially what they're saying here?
Essentially what they're saying is it's up to Congress to tell us how this works. So if Congress had, let's say 50 years ago, Congress had passed a law saying we're going to let the states do it, so long as they abide by due process, then what Colorado did would have been fine. But Congress has done essentially nothing in the 150 years since the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868. Now, I
Of
wanna make
course,
sure
because
people
Congress
understand
never
this is a
does
very important
fucking
feature of
nothing,
this
man.
decision.
Don't
There
ever
is
do
no
anything.
substantive discussion in here by the Supreme Court
Fucking
of
people
whether
just
Donald Trump
sit there
did or
and
did
collect
not
money.
engage in insurrection.
Interesting.
There is no conversation about what the meaning of his words at the rally were or what happened inside the Capitol.
Well, you're never gonna
any
know
of
the
Donald Trump's
meaning, the meaning of his words. Everybody's gonna have a different analysis on that, because he's the only one, the only person that knows his actual what he felt, what he was. He's the only person. Everybody else is gonna have an opinion on it, and that's just an opinion. Me too. Everybody. So you can stop trying to even know it. It's you're not going to, unless he comes out and says it, and then you don't know if it's a lie or not. So
actions. That's not what the Supreme Court has done here. That's not what the Supreme Court typically does. This is a procedural, legalistic decision. And essentially, if I had to boil it down to one sentence, it would be it's up to Congress, not the individual
They didn't
states.
want a big messy situation where all the states go
So-
here and there and that sort of thing.
The word I circled
Yeah.
in this decision is, quote, patchwork. They said, we don't want a patchwork where one state's doing one thing and another state's doing another.
But you know Donald Trump better than most. Covered him for many
little,
years.
yeah.
Many years
Yeah,
as
here and
a
there.
reporter covering him as a politician and as a figure who takes things and will turn them the way that he wants America and the world to see them. I will be shocked if Donald Trump doesn't, as soon as he can, get out there and argue not only that the Supreme Court is behind him, but he's probably going to argue, even though there's nothing in here that specifically says, as Ellie so importantly pointed out, anything about what happened on January 6th. It's just procedural about whether the states or Congress have a right.
That's what they're
He
supposed to
will
do.
claim victory, and I'm guessing he will do it in a more broad way than this decision actually says.
Yeah,
Of course, he's a
Joan,
politician. That's what
there
you're supposed to
I
do.
mean, there are countless Americans out there who believe that
Biden would do the same thing.
bailed out Donald
Anybody
Trump,
would.
and that they're going to bail him. They might bail him out again on the immunity issue, which I know a lot of folks feel like that's not going to happen. But the fact
Definitely.
that can got kicked down the road means that the January 6th trial may not happen
That's
in
right.
federal court.
And
So
what you're referring to there is the fact that the justices have scheduled.
I don't know. I
oral
think that's
argument
gonna
for
make
the
it to
week of
court.
April
I don't know. That's
22nd
my
on whether Donald
opinion
Trump
on
should
it.
be immune from criminal prosecution for election subversion.
But I don't
But
think
let me
anybody
just
should be
tell you what
immune, so-
concerned the three liberals about this ruling and how far the majority went.
No matter if I'm a
I'm
Trump
just
supporter or
reading it now.
not, I am, but
Their concern was that
still don't think anybody should be
the
immune.
majority went further than they needed for this particular case and essentially is over favoring Donald Trump. Ultimately, under the guise of providing a more, quote, complete explanation for the judgment, the majority resolves many unsettled questions about Section 3, that's Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, the anti-insurrectionist ban. It forecloses judicial enforcement of that provision, such as might occur when a party is prosecuted by an insurrectionist and raises defense on that score. I mean, it's the language hints of what's happening with Donald Trump right now.
But-
So I think that's
I
their
mean,
concern.
you get the
is that
insurrectionist
the
shit, and you're taking it a
fuller
bit too
majority has
far
gone further.
because
Now,
he's
this
never
is a
been proven
concurrence,
guilty of
just so
that.
you know. So the all 9 have signed on to the basic principle, reversing the Colorado Supreme Court and keeping him on the ballot. It's just about what happens down the road.
Laura, what do we know right now?
All right, guys, I want to thank you. Appreciate you watching the video. I don't know, the scene is actually not a bad clip, man. They did a pretty good job. It's kind of staying in the middle a little bit, you know, which I think all news outlets should be. They should be in the middle. They shouldn't be right or left leaning. They did a pretty good job there. I don't mind it. Pretty good. Because I watch CNN because I like to see the left view of things. So yeah, it's pretty good. Sure, MSNBC has something too that's pretty crazy. I don't know. They usually, I don't know. Who knows? But I appreciate you guys hanging out. If you could give me a sub, give me we got some shorts coming down the road. Get some reaction videos on the shorts, and I'll be trying to get more of this election coverage out since we are in March now. Election's coming up in what? Got 8 months, so coming just real close. So let's see. I'll be getting more coverage of that for you guys. I appreciate everybody. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. You know, it's free. Everything will be down in the description, from the Discord to when I stream on Twitch, all that stuff. So if you guys want to hit it up, I'd appreciate it. Have a good day. Everybody stay safe. Later.